So there is an Equinox event coming in Pokemon Go. Yeah, so starting March 19th through the 26th, there will be boosted grass-type spawns in the wild. There'll be grass-type Pokemon available in raid challenges, and limited-time grass-type field research going on during this event. Could that mean Shaman? I don't know. Nothing is confirmed or denied at this time with that. But the focus of this video is going to be on the permanent addition of Acid Spray and Leaf Tornado into the move pools of these select Pokemon in Pokemon Go. So in the main series games, Acid Spray is a defense lowering attack, and in Pokemon Go, likely going to be a defense lowering charge move, and Leaf Tornado is an accuracy lowering move in the main series games. And given that there aren't many attack lowering moves in the games, I feel like Leaf Tornado is going to translate into Pokemon Go as an attack lowering move. That's my assumption right now. Right now we don't have any stats on these moves, but based off of what we know with Power Up Punch, which was recently added to the game, you can check link in the description to my video analysis on Power Up Punch. I think we got enough information to do a nice little predictive analysis on Acid Spray and Leaf Tornado. So I think Acid Spray is going to be a very interesting addition to the move pool of all of these Pokemon highlighted here, because many of them don't have a low energy cost charge move. So if Acid Spray is a low energy cost charge move like Power Up Punch is, I feel like it'll be a huge boon to a lot of these Pokemon. Starting out with Arbok here. Arbok is a little underappreciated Pokemon in PvP in Pokemon Go. You can see here that it has Dragon Tail in its move pool, which is supposed to be a little extra spice for it, allowing it to stand out from other poison type Pokemon, but it really hasn't had any impact. Main reason why is because Arbok has relatively high energy cost charge moves to back it up. With the inclusion of Acid Spray in Arbok's move pool, that could allow it to, inch ahead in viability, especially compared to other poison types in the game. This same kind of situation exists for Muck and Alolan Muck, both of which are very powerful poison type Pokemon, both of which have gotten move pool additions that haven't really had a large impact on them in the game, but with the inclusion of Acid Spray, they could stand out a bit more than before. Now I know that all three of these Pokemon are poison types and all three of them have relatively similar move pools, but Arbok does have Dragon Tail, and normal Muck does have Thunder Punch, and Alolan Muck is sub-Dark type. So I feel like this is a way for all of them to get better through Acid Spray, but still stand out for their individual merits. I'm actually pretty interested in seeing how this influences Alolan Muck in the Twilight Cup, because right now it kind of lives in Skunktank's shadow. Skunktank is just a clearly better version of Alolan Muck. But Skunktank isn't getting Acid Spray. So this could be a way for Alolan Muck to stand out and maybe even combo with Skunktank in Twilight Cup tournaments. I don't know if they still run tournaments after the month is over based off the cup, but if there's ever a Twilight Cup reprise, then Alolan Muck might be swinging a little bit harder than before. Victory Bell is another Pokemon that's going to be getting the new Acid Spray charge move, and I feel like it's a pretty devastating addition to Victory Bell's kit, especially if it ends up being a low energy cost charge move. If you're unaware, Victory Bell does have the busted Razor Leaf attack, which is a very high damaging fast move in PvP, but it has very low energy gains, which kind of holds it back a bit. With Acid Spray, if your opponent were to shield or not even shield the Acid Spray, it would lower their defense by one stage, which would allow Razor Leaf to pick up even more in damage. So I think that would be a very interesting addition to Victory Bell's move pool, especially if you consider if they were to switch out into a Victory Bell counter and then Victory Bell hit them with the Acid Spray, lowering their defense. Then in the middle of that confrontation, you were able to get off another Acid Spray. Even if the opponent resisted Razor Leaf, they would now be taking neutral damage due to the defense drops offsetting their resistance. So I think that would be very interesting. It's also worthwhile to add, and I should have mentioned it earlier, that the defense drops are comparable to attack boosts. So just as Power Up Punch would increase your attack to like stab damage and then super effective damage and then even further beyond with the other two stages, lowering your defense stage would have like the same effect from your opponents. So yeah, good thing to keep in mind there. Another cool recipient of this attack is Tentacruel. So you might remember Tentacruel from my Twilight Cup content as this late game nuker. And the reason why it had this late game nuker type status is because all of its charge moves here have a really steep energy cost in PvP. So it's really hard for it to get up there, but when it does get up there, it basically wastes what's ever in its path. With the inclusion of Acid Spray in its moveset, assuming that it's a low energy cost charge move like Power Up Punch, that will make its use in the meta a bit more dynamic than it currently is, because now it can bait shields, lower defenses, and do the late game nuke type attacks. So I feel like this is a really huge boon for Tentacruel over here, especially when you consider that it's a poison water type. So poison resisting Power Up Punch and water resisting Ice Punch, right? Yeah, so I could see Tentacruel becoming more of a potent force in the PvP meta with the inclusion of Acid Spray, allowing it to be a little bit more freed up in combat. And then also lower defenses, making it more powerful through making the opponent more weak. So I'm pretty interested to see what happens with Tentacruel here. Qwilfish also gets Acid Spray, and Qwilfish has always been kind of like an analog to Tentacruel, where Tentacruel is bulky and powerful but slow, and Qwilfish is kind of frail and weak but fast. Qwilfish is still going to be a little bit faster than Tentacruel because it has Aqua Tail and Ice Beam, where Tentacruel has Hydro Pump and Blizzard, which have a steeper energy cost. So they will still have that relationship with each other. I feel like Tentacruel is gaining a bit more here since its gameplay is now going to be more dynamic than it was previously. But this is still a good gain for Qwilfish, which is still going to do what it's always done, which is spit out fast charge moves. But now it's got a fast charge move to spit out that lowers defenses. Acid Spray is also a powerful addition to our buddy SwagTips over here. If you remember from my Boulder Cup content, Daddy Cash and Marshtomp both stood out over Quagsire because they have Mud Bomb, which is a low energy cost charge move. Quagsire is still really good, but it didn't have anything to allow it to get on their level of speed. In the Tempest Cup, right now Quagsire is kind of like a risky pick that can work out quite well in your favor, but is still also held back by the fact that it doesn't have a low energy cost charge move. Well, with the inclusion of Acid Spray into Quagsire's kit here, it will definitely increase in viability. So right now, it's kind of feeling a little niche, but really cool at the same time. And I feel with Acid Spray, assuming once again, if it's a low energy cost charge move, which it should be because Power Up Punches, this will definitely make Quagsire really good in PvP. So I'm actually really excited to see what happens with Quagsire in the Tempest Cup because, I mean, this is one of my picks for the Tempest Cup, and seeing it get better, well dang, right? That's awesome. Then we have Octillery, and I think Octillery is an even more interesting Pokemon to get this new special Acid Spray attack. Main reason being is, like Quagsire, it has Mudshot, so it's got that super high energy gaining fast move. The main problem that's been holding it back in PvP, like Quagsire, is that it's had these high energy cost charge moves. And now it's getting, presumably, a low energy cost one. I don't think Acid Spray is going to be the final piece of the puzzle to make Octillery good in PvP, but we do know that Octazooka, Octillery's signature attack, was data mined in the past, in the game. So we may be seeing Octazooka in the future. Or at the very least, we know it's on Niantic's mind. So it's going to be interesting to see how the inclusion of Acid Spray and the future Octazooka influence Octillery's performance in PvP. Right now, it's kind of a bad pick, but I feel like with Octazooka and Acid Spray, it could rise from the depths and surprise us all and take over the metagame with its 4 tentacles. It's only got 4. At least I can see. Maybe there's a couple behind it. Then finally, we have Swalot. And Swalot, I'm still kind of lukewarm towards. I know that it's a popular Pokemon for many players in PvP, despite it not being good. I think a reason for this is I believe it has a low cost to unlock the secondary charge move. I don't really think it's that great though. Its fast moves aren't that great, and the only thing it really has going on for its charge moves is Ice Beam access. And I know that a lot of its victory has come from Ice Beam being kind of a surprise attack, like opponents aren't aware that it has the Ice Beam, so that's allowed it to kind of stand out. But I feel overall it's a weak pick. Acid Spray would be a gain for it because it would be presumably the fastest charge move that it would have, and it is a defense lowering charge move, so that is interesting to think about. I still don't think Swalot's going to be all that great though, so I could be mistaken. I could be selling Swalot short. I could have been selling Swalot short from the beginning here. Maybe I'm just sleeping on this ultimate mustached pick. But overall, I don't think it's that great, and I don't feel like Acid Spray is going to make it crazy at all like it's going to for these other Pokemon, presumably. Yeah. Alright, so that covers Acid Spray. I think Acid Spray is going to be a really interesting addition to the game as an analog to Power Up Punch, where Power Up Punch increases your attack, Acid Spray lowers your opponent's defenses. It might sound on paper like Acid Spray might be weaker because Power Up Punch, you're increasing your own power so you can keep the ball rolling into the next fight. But I think what's interesting about Acid Spray and debuff moves in general is that it can be that parting shot, right? So let's say you're using Muck here. It's about to go down. It already took out the Pokemon it was meant to counter, and now its time has come to pay the ultimate price in this game of rock, paper, scissors. Well, before it goes down, it can hit him with that Acid Spray. And that Acid Spray lowers their defense by 1 stage. And by lowering their defense by 1 stage, now they're more vulnerable to the next Pokemon you bring in. So if you already traded, your papers and scissors, and the final fight comes down to the Rock versus the Rock, well, their Rock has lower defense, which might make your Rock even better. So I think that's really interesting with Acid Spray there. So I feel like it won't be as aggressive as Power Up Punch is, but it does have that subtle effect of just lingering after the battle. Finally, we have Leaf Tornado, and I feel like it, having an attack lowering move is interesting and good, but these two Pokemon getting it, I don't feel like they're the right Pokemon. This is interesting for Victory Bell in the sense that it makes Victory Bell like a debuffing specialist of sorts, but Victory Bell is primarily using Razor Leaf. It's not trying to spam charge moves. And if Victory Bell were to use a charge move in battle, I feel like it has a lot more to gain from using Acid Spray than it would Leaf Tornado. So I don't feel like this is going to do a whole lot for Victory Bell. I could be selling Leaf Tornado short, and maybe its effect is something other than lowering attack by 1 stage. And if it is, then that could be great for Victory Bell. But I don't really see Victory Bell making much use out of it. And then when it comes to Shiftry here, I feel like Shiftry is a relatively underappreciated Pokemon in the Pokemon Go meta. But given the state of the current meta, I don't feel like Shiftry is going to be able to do much of anything. It is a dark grass type Pokemon. So being a dark type Pokemon means that you're weak to Power Up Punch, which means Medicham is just going to come in and wreck you completely. Being a grass type Pokemon means you're weak to all these Acid Spray users that are now getting a boost in the meta, which definitely doesn't help Shiftry out at all. And then finally, Altaria and Skarmory are still really, really good, despite not having buff or debuff moves. And they're still going to be good, and they're super effective against Shiftry. So yeah, as far as being good in the Great League, and I feel like that's the only league that Shiftry can really stand out in, it definitely has the deck stacked against it, even with Leaf Tornado. Oh yeah, and one thing that's a little dubious too is initial reports of this announcement here included Tropius, and then they removed Tropius. I feel like they may have pulled the plug on Tropius here because it is a controversial option for the Tempest Cup meta, which is currently what's going on in the Sylph Arena. And we know that Niantic is mindful of the Sylph Road and the Sylph Arena, and the influence Sylph has on the player base. So maybe they pulled Leaf Tornado out from it just to lower the controversy even more. Tropius is the kind of Pokemon that doesn't really need any gains. It'd be a nice addition, but I don't feel like it needs it. But in the same sense, it would make an already really powerful and exclusive Pokemon even more powerful, which would make its use even more controversial for people that don't have access to it, right? So I feel like that might be an element in this. So yeah, I feel like Tropius definitely deserves to have Leaf Tornado, and I'd love to see it included in its moveset. I feel like it's birthright almost, because it learns it in the main series games. So why shouldn't Tropius get its move? But given the current state of the Sylph Arena and the Tempest Cup and Tropius being a bit controversial for some people, I feel like it makes sense to kind of pull the plug here. So I hope it gets it in the future. So that is my brief predictive analysis on the Acid Spray and Leaf Tornado in Pokemon Go. If you got any questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more like it, maybe you want to see what the real influence of Acid Spray and Leaf Tornado are when we get the data mine and they're actually in the game, well then make sure to subscribe to SwagTips.